and welcome to All My Art and Soul. I'm Michelle Holden, and this series is Abstract Art Journaling Series number 3, Exploring Layers. And as you can see, I have a new set of stencils that I just need to play with and see what they can do. So I'm going to use my usual tools. That's my much sharper knife and a small screwdriver for scratching, some collage papers, some handmade stamping objects, my circle, and I just want to keep this palette simple. And I've been making lots of black and white collage papers. That is a pottery tool, I believe, and it has a very round surface. And I used it to scratch the gesso, which is on this page. Yes, and I'm showing you my new stencils. I ordered them from Stencil Girl, and I was wondering why they were so thin but yet very tough. And now I know why, once I started using them on the jelly plate after doing this video. So I pre-gessoed the surface, spread the gesso out with my brayer, which causes a sort of a tacky texture, which I like, and then just scratched, line and mark through it. And then I decided to start with just graphite, and I sort of made the gesture on the brush that way to emphasize that it is a very dry brush. And I'm using an acrylic white just to go over it, to veil it, to push it back. So I'm doing two things with this page. I'm seeing what my stencils can and cannot do, just getting used to them, and playing, pushing and pulling with the layers. I discovered that the black, it's so funny when I'm doing a video how names of things can just disappear. The China marker makes them much stronger but softer, and it doesn't smudge. So these are all things when you're doing these abstract art pages, that's the reason why we're doing them. Just to explore as much as we can with all of our materials. Take note, be present in that moment, and then you'll see at the end that you even can write a few little notes or words down so you remember what worked, what didn't work. So there's just some marks here. It's just the very first layer. Remember, one layer at a time. So that's the heavy gel gloss, and these are the papers that I made last week. And remember my hole puncher? I forget what the brand name is, but it's pretty cool. I'm going to get some more shapes, maybe different sizes. But there is something about the perfectness of how it makes circles versus the more organic. And I am going more towards the organic and the mixture. So then there's another difference there. So this piece was just a scrap piece. It was just ready to go on this page. And notice I'm not using tape just because this is totally exploratory. Unlike my Of Earth and Sky, where I'm sort of aiming for some kind of abstract landscape. And that's why I changed the name. I don't want this series in this book to have to be an abstract landscape. I'm changing the rules. Why? Because I can. You can. And I really like this circle. I didn't end up using it, but that's the greatest thing about watching what you do later on in a video, is I definitely would apply paint or draw inside or outside that circle. Here's this long piece of black that I do end up tearing up and creating that series of horizontal, I call it ladder lines or whatever. And I really love putting a bunch of black and white collage papers together that are like totally different. And it's like a puzzle. It's just seeing how different they are, and that's what really attracts your eye. So this is a series of organic dots. I'm using my natural sponge here. And after I completed this video, as I said before, I used my jelly plate and had some really great success using white paint on black paper. So that's going to be a series of little tips and tricks, the shorter videos that I'm going to add during the week. And just something that I'm discovering. I'm thinking the more I do, the better for you and the better for me. So I'm going to be adding, at least most of the time, 2 videos a week. I haven't decided which day this one would come out. Probably either a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So we'll just see. And I'm going to be working on that right after this. So of course my nickel azo golden, beautiful transparent warm tone. And I really liked how that series of dots in the middle, so there's a high contrast focal point. And I'm going to and you can, when you're stamping, or when you're stenciling, sorry, not stamping, totally different technique. Remember, you can just, it doesn't have to be the whole thing. Just put in what you feel, and you'll follow your intuition. So this is a piece of that cooking paper, and I noticed it didn't do what I expected it to do because it didn't absorb any of the paint because of the wax surface. Right. So I like it because it's a very transparent layer. Looking at it now, I might have even liked to go over it with 1 pass or 2 with the brayer to see what those shapes, and they would have been more there, but I just didn't. So as you can see, there's focus in the middle here, focus on the left, and I'm not really worrying too much about composition. That's a whole other series. I think it's more important for you and me to get used to what the materials do. What do you like? What kind of marks speak to you? And then you'll find you'll develop a bunch of marks, which I am. I'm really liking the organic mixed with the geometric or sacred geometry, which those stencils are on order. They haven't arrived yet. I ordered a small and a large version. But I really like now, side by side, the nickel azo put down with my brush. Oh, so I'm passing now with the brayer. And this is just a student quality white, titanium white. And I like how it's sending, I'm changing the focal point now by pushing the black and white contrast on the left back, and see how now the orange is coming forward. And I really like that. So that's something that you'll learn the more you do it. And then, like I said before, spin in with your intuition, not overthinking. So you're creating from your heart space, not your head. Then spin out and then observe. And that's being really present. So this is the tech kind of stencil. I love this stencil. And depending on the dampness of your sponge or whatever tool you're using, I'm going to go look in Michael's this week and see what other stamping or sponges I can use to get a crisper effect. So this little piece is a piece of tracing paper that I previously painted with the same color, nickel azo gold. And I absolutely love it because when you put it down on the page, it's very transparent. Seeing where I noticed I would have liked to put more black marks underneath it just to show off how transparent it is. So I'm making a note of that right now for future pieces, future pages. So I put a piece up at the top, of course, to draw the eye up in that area. This is a piece of I guess you'd call it rice paper or handcrafted paper. It's also pretty transparent, but they're very, they absorb. So as long as you know that they do, then you can use it to your advantage. So just playing with layers, lighter values on top of darker values, contrast of black and white. And I just love this piece of gold and black. And I'm just figuring out right here, where does it fit? So I'm liking the negative space of the circles that big piece on the left created. And I noticed here that just a big rectangle didn't work. It needed some curve because that's it just contrasts with what, or goes with what I already have. And I'm just putting it in the bottom right-hand corner as if there was a border there, but I'm not really worried. And it just creates it with your eye. And I really like that. So I'm smoothing out. Some paint got on there and I wanted the pattern to be clear. So a damp J-cloth, those are so handy, especially when you get them by the roll in the dollar store, or even the real J-cloth is a much better quality. So then I'm giving the base some weight. And I know that I don't want it fully solid. So I'm scumbling again with a more drier brush and adding a little bit on the top to counteract that on the bottom. And again, just your student quality acrylic paint for these pages. I know I'm using some golden, but that's okay. That seems to be, you need higher quality acrylic paint if you want transparency. Okay, so this is just those cardboard letter stencils that you purchase in different sizes. I love them because I love the old-fashioned print, and this is just a negative piece of probably a Q or a 0 or whatever that popped out. And I save all those. So it's just sort of something partially showing, partially being hidden. And then I've decided, okay, so here's the focal point, is right here where this orange is, of course, obviously. So that's where I'm going to put my highest contrast. And this wasn't planned. This just happens one layer at a time, one mark at a time, one area of color at a time. And you just respond. And just let it all happen. It's so much fun this way. My goal is to be as relaxed on my canvases as I am in my art journal. There's the challenge. I think a lot of you feel the same way. So, as we move through these abstract art journal pages, we're going to home in on some specific techniques and marks that we want to use, and then how do we take what we've learned in our art journal pages to a much larger piece. That's to come. I love the organic shapes. These are sort of it's like a botanical kind of mirage of different shapes overlapping. And I chose that one because it contrasted so well with the high-tech stencil up in the upper right. So I realize I have some black on my sponge. I don't have another good sponge like this that I like, so that's why I'm hunting for some more sponges. So it's more of a gray than a white, and that's okay. I sort of like it. It's softer. The contrast isn't as high, but this is the first time. This time right here is the first time I've used these stencils. So just getting used to them. Really like them. And I'll take that circle, put it there. Leads the eye up. So I'm always wanting to go up for these particular pages. Dark to light, moving up, but making sure that the viewer, there's enough going on where you can move around and the viewer's eye doesn't go off the page. So that's tweaking at the end. In your beginning layers, we're really not worrying about that too much. Oh yeah, I really like that. So it's circles within circles. And then of course that open. Oh, need a little more paint. There's something about the foam of this particular tubing. It's just packing from something we ordered from Amazon. Who knows? And you can slice it. So I've got so many of those now, but it leaves a really cool texture behind. So in the upper left-hand corner off the view here, I have my Posca markers. I don't know how to pronounce it. Anyway, they're great. Acrylic paint markers. And so there's what I decided to do. I decided to use black, keeping in that color scheme or the value on the left, just echoing the marks on the right, and now the eye moves all around. But it just needs something more in that upper left-hand corner. And always making sure your paint is dry before you use your markers, because you'll ruin them. So yeah, just that row of dots. I usually use 3s at the bottom. And I have to sort of woe the reins on those, because you don't want to inundate your work with so many small things, because there again, it's the same size. So you always want to consider, even if it's for a moment, differences. And I'm so glad I moved up my sketchbook. So I'm just putting a few in there. So it's drawing the eye down and around. And then I end up doing something to the upper left-hand white circle with a different colored marker. I believe it's yellow, because it's just a little different from. So this is a lid. This is the lid to the glue stick that I've been using. I like that. So if circles are working, use some more, but different, open, different size, different texture, different color, different patterns. So I'm pausing and considering this upper left-hand circle. And, oh, there you go. We're going to be doing lots of these. See that, if I put it there, I could have used that instead of the lines, the horizontal lines going up. That would have been, or maybe something more botanical would have been really cool over the orange. So I'm fooling around with positive, negative shapes, probably because I just finished watching a video previous to this where there's another artist, I forget who, a male, which is awesome, doing art journal pages, abstract art journal pages. I just forget who. And using stencils, positive and negative. Yeah, so I'm worried about putting too much on my page, and I don't know if I end up putting that there or not. Okay, so when you have your pile of stuff on the side, oh yes, that's right. So this again is, I do believe, a piece of parchment paper. And that was the same paper that I used, the nickel azo gold, which now is, that part is just covered up. It's just peeking through. So I'm just trying to figure out where this is going. And now, looking at this, I don't tear the pointiness of the shape off. I might have, it would have been better to do it, but I don't think it matters here. So it just fits right there in the middle, not covering the stenciling below. And yes, it will cover the circle underneath, but you know what? That's okay. But I really like how transparent and more texture it's adding to this piece. So it's balancing the left and the right. So that's what my intuition is telling me, even though you may or may not notice it while you're creating your art journal page, and that's okay, because that's you've spun in and you're just reacting. And when you come back out, then you'll notice, oh, okay. So working with white on black, black on white next to each other is so cool. I noticed that in some other artwork, so I wanted to try it myself. And there's some more layers: black and white, white on black, on top of each other, but not totally covering up the previous. So even though it might only be one small corner of your piece, that's still a layer. So we're drawing near to the end of this journal page, and then I pick up the China marker again, just a few more marks, and I think I'm done, but then I realize, oh, it just needs one more thing. Now, I don't know if I do it here or I do it afterwards. Maybe I do it afterwards. So right now I'm writing a few notes and making sure that page doesn't lie on my palette and get paint on it, because I want to keep these pages fairly clean. I don't want them super messy. And of course, trying to remember the date, which is always an issue once I'm in the middle of doing my art. So funny. Yes, it's Thursday, August, whatever that was. I think it was the 19th. I finally figured that out. My phone's nearby. And I'm really liking how the black and white and the white and black worked next to each other. I love the transparency of the nickel azo and the subtleness of the tissue paper pieces next to it. I usually read what's going on in my mind right here. Mostly, as I said earlier, this page was to get used to what these stencils can do and can't do. How do they fit in my art process? How do I want to use them? So I'm writing a note to myself to make more transparent tissue paper with various transparent hues. Payne's Gray is another one. Manganese Blue is another fantastic. So I'm just saying, so I don't understand my own writing, but it was an awesome day. Got lots done. So if you enjoy this video and this content, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, as it really helps with the algorithms to this channel. And as I said before, I want to make and keep making more. So I will see you in the next video.